All right. 3 people dead, 5 more remain in critical condition after a mass shooting at Michigan State University's campus just last night. All of the victims, Michigan State students, and the injured were told in critical condition at Lansing, Michigan Sparrow Hospital. The suspect, 43-year-old Anthony Dwayne McCray, was reportedly not affiliated with the university in any way. Died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound several miles away and several hours after the shooting on campus. Now, the shooter entered a classroom where students were meeting and fired off 3 or 4 rounds before exiting. Students then barricaded the door and started breaking windows and helping others get out of the room. Authorities are still investigating a motive. Don't know how you come up with one. But Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer already getting ready for gun control measures, saying this earlier this morning. Listen.
We're all broken by an all too familiar feeling. Another place that is supposed to be about community and togetherness, shattered by bullets and bloodshed. We know this is a uniquely American problem. Today is the 5th anniversary of the Parkland shooting. We're mere weeks past the Lunar New Year shooting at a dance hall, and a few months past a shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde. And looking back at a year marked by shootings at grocery stores, parades, and so many other ordinary, everyday situations, we cannot keep living like this. Our children are scared to go to school. People feel unsafe in their houses of worship or local stores. Too many of us scan rooms for exits when we enter them. And many of us have gone through the grim exercise of figuring out who our last call would be to.
Here to discuss more of the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, Dr. John Lott. John, you know, it's like they had this legislation, and this doesn't surprise me, sitting in a file ready to go. Because, you know, at some point you're going to have a bad incident. It's something, unfortunately, that we do deal with in America. But the solution here that I heard Debbie Dingell, our congresswoman from the Detroit area, say, get rid of AR-15s. That's what she was saying on morning programs today, even though the weapon here was a handgun. And they go straight to the gun control policies, red flag laws. This is a gentleman that we believe was previously convicted and should not have been in possession of that firearm. We're still verifying that. His record takes him back to Delaware and New Jersey. We're not sure about all that, but it's questionable whether he should have had the gun at all. Red flag laws, gun control, change anything?
Well, you know, she mentions the attacks that we just had in California. California is way above the national average in terms of mass public shootings. And yet gun control groups point to California as having the best gun control laws or the strictest gun control laws in the country. It's regularly the one state that the gun control groups give a perfect A to, whereas other states like Texas, for example, which they give a F to, have very, very low mass public shooting rates. Look, the types of laws that they want to have, like these red flag laws, I wish there was a simple solution to things like that. Red flag laws are virtually always used because of concerns about suicides, for example. 99% or so of the cases involved that. This obviously wasn't a suicide, but even in those cases, you know, the notion that somehow if you simply take away a person's guns, you're going to prevent them from committing suicide is not a serious solution. I mean, if you're really concerned about somebody committing suicide, you want to do more than just take away a person's guns. You want to have them mental health care experts involved in the process. You may have to confine them in some way because there's so many different ways for people to go and commit suicides. You know, you mentioned Congresswoman Dingell talking about banning AR-15s. You know, not only wasn't it used in this case, but any type of rifle. If you look since the beginning of 1998, rifles solely used as the sole weapon in these attacks represents about 14% of the mass public shootings. 58% of the mass public shootings involve handguns, such as what was used in this attack. You know, but if they got rid of the one, I'm sure they'd go and talk about getting rid of the other. The problem is you have President Biden, for example, now talking about banning semi-automatic guns. Civilians benefit a lot from having semi-automatic guns. I mean, what's the alternative? A rifle that you have to manually load after you fire each shot? That takes time. If
Sure.
you multiple criminals, or you fire and
Well,
miss, or you fire and wound but don't incapacitate the criminal, you may not
yeah.
have the luxury of time to manually reload your gun. You're talking about 85% or so of the guns in the United States they're talking about banning.
The bottom line is this, John: the most law-abiding citizens in America are those that have CPLs in places where training was required and background checks were required. Those that carry concealed pistol licenses and similar from state to state are the most law-abiding citizens in the United States. And so when you come through with blanket gun control measures, whether it's bump stocks or short-barreled rifles, or in this case, red flag laws and maybe gun bans altogether that would turn ordinary citizens into felons, all of that does not make the world a safer place. None of it, in my estimation. Disarming me or disarming you does not make the world a safer place, John. It just doesn't work that way. And they know that, because they know this sort of tragedy will continue, sadly, until they confiscate every gun from every private citizen, which I believe is the long-term goal. I mean, how could you think it was anything else?
Unfortunately, I've come to believe the same thing that you do there. Look, if they talk about doing things like banning military-style guns, where they go after style is the key word there, where they're trying to ban guns based on how they look. There's not a lot of sense to that, because there's guns that are functionally identical that fire the same bullets with the same rapidity, doing the same damage. So then you have Biden talking about banning all semi-automatic guns. Look, here's the problem, and that is you have to be careful that when you pass gun control laws, you're not going to primarily disarm law-abiding good citizens. If you go and you ban semi-automatic guns, for example, do you really think you're going to stop criminals from getting guns? The people that you're going to take the guns away from are going to be the most law-abiding good citizens. You see this, I'll give you an example. You see this with gun-free zones. Time after time, the cases that Whitmer was just going through are mentioning attacks that occurred where guns were banned. She mentioned the grocery store shooting last year. The murderer there put out a manifesto, and the media refuses to go and talk about the parts of the manifesto where he explains why he picked the target that he did. He wanted to go and pick a target, he said explicitly, where victims wouldn't have permitted concealed handguns, because that would make it much easier for him to kill people. They mention that in many of these manifestos and diaries that they have. These guys may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. Their goal is to get media coverage. They know the more people they kill, the more media coverage they're going to be able to get. They know if they go to a place where victims can't defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people.
Sure, and you look at what happened yesterday. It's a giant gun-free zone, Michigan State University, a giant campus, tens of thousands of students. And from what we can ascertain from surveillance footage and so forth, the criminal here walked right in a side door of the building. It was not secured, walked right in, and began the carnage. So that is heartbreaking as well, isn't it?
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I want to do something. Gun control advocates keep saying that they want to do something, but I want to do something that actually matters. You mentioned gun-free zones. 94% of the mass public shootings in the United States have taken place in areas where guns are banned. Just read the diaries, read the manifestos. These guys purposely pick those places. You want to make a place safe. So you say, if I just ban guns from this area, it's going to make people safe. The problem is it actually serves as a magnet for these attacks. So you have a 3-year prison sentence for somebody going and breaking the gun-free zone rule. Well, for you or I, 3 years in prison, that's a major penalty. But if somebody's going to go and kill 3 people like this guy just did, and he's going to be facing 3 life sentences, do you really think an additional 3 years is going to be, he says, okay, I can take 3 life sentences, but you add another 3 years, that's just too much. I can't put up that penalty. Yeah. And what you have happen then is that the murderer there can take advantage of the fact that the law affects the law-abiding citizens there, not the criminals. It actually encourages them to go and do their attacks in those places.
Yeah. In this case, the shooter won't be going to jail or court or
Right.
anywhere else. He took his own life at the end of the evening last night. But in too many cases, you're exactly right. John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center, as always, thank you for being with us.
Thanks. People can find more at our website at crimeresearch.org, but thank you very much.
There you have it.